My name is Afsa Kopsinge, and today I want us to briefly discuss about two important aspects of talent management. That is ethics in selection and recruitment, and then also we talk about privacy during talent management. Um, in simple terms, ethics means good character. So when someone is ethical, that means they do something good even if no one is watching what they are doing. And unfortunately, in Uganda, even across the globe, there are some unethical mannerisms that people do during selection. Yeah, we've all at least had or seen an experience where you've gone for an interview, did everything it takes, and then before you know it, you're not getting this job because it was a predetermined decision. Like people are doing these things, the interviews and the selection process, just tick a box. Um, some of the problems that cause um, an ethical character, or some of the examples of an ethical character that happen during selection, is first of all discrimination. Discrimination sometimes is intentional and sometimes not intentional. I'll give an example of intentional discrimination where people are open about age of the people they want to employ, the sex of the people they want to employ, the tribe, yeah, that is open discrimination. Then there is hidden discrimination that I would call a reflex. Yeah. For example, if someone is on a panel and they show up with maybe my second name, like someone is called Kopsinge, for example, somehow I can get excited. And out of this excitement, I can give them a job. That is also a part of discrimination. The second issue is dishonesty. Yeah, some organizations give a wrong job description during advertisement of these jobs, and people end up coming on for these jobs, yet when they get to the workplace, they realize that what was explained in the advert is very different from what is on ground. This also happens on the side of people who are looking for jobs. People over prepare for these interviews. People watch YouTube videos. People read a lot. So at the end of the day, someone is hired and they fail to portray the picture they did during the time of interviews. Yeah, that is also unethical. Then another problem is uh, digging data. People dig data from different sources. Ideally, I feel like a CV would be good enough, or maybe checking on previous employer, but people go as far as checking social media handles to find out who these people are. Yeah, someone can choose to hide character, not because it is harmful to the organization, but because maybe it wouldn't be a good sign. For example, applying for a government job, yet on social media, you sometimes criticize government policies. Yeah. So I feel like when you get out there to pick information from someone without their knowledge, it is not a very good habit. It is unethical. Unethical mannerism is ghosting. Yeah, people come for interviews, they go through all these processes, but they're not given feedback. People need to know how the process has gone. They need to know if they should continue job hunting or expect an opportunity from you. That makes them feel respected. And maybe the last one, of course, there are so many. The last one I could talk about is nepotism because it is very common, where people choose their relatives, their friends, their colleagues through connection. Because then at the end of the day, what happens to people who are not connected to these jobs? I will also give you some brief on how we can curb this. First of all, we can encourage a screening, anonymous screening, where someone can have their CV is sent through, but the team that is screening doesn't necessarily need to have the details of the owner of the CV. Another thing is having many panels during the selection process. For example, we can have a different panel for screening, then we have a different panel for setting the interview questions, and then we have a different team interviewing the people. So that way we can curb discrimination, we can curb nepotism. And then lastly, we can also do consent, like we can ask for consent from employees or people who are coming in to ask for jobs. Like if I have to get information about you from maybe social media or from your previous employer, I need to get your consent. I need to get how you feel about it. Yeah, because people have a background, but then they change along the way. So I feel that also would be a good one. The solution would be honesty. Well, sending out these job adverts, people need to know what to expect. For example, the salaries, what exactly someone is supposed to do, so that people who are coming in for these interviews actually feel like they can offer, they can perform. Yeah, that way we will avoid having people who are demoralized because they feel like they were not respected, they feel like they were lied to at the beginning, and also it saves the organization bad reputation. Now we will switch to talent management, and talent management is the process that an organization goes through to make sure that they connect the right people to do the right roles. Yeah, this will include advertising, sending in as CVs, then having these CVs assessed, then finding out which people are right for the interviews, doing the interviews, selecting them, orienting them, retaining them, yeah, until the day they leave. Yeah, so that is what we call talent management. Then, on the other hand, privacy. Westin in 1967 defined privacy as the right of an individual to determine on what information they collect from them, how this information is used, and when to give out this information to other people. Yeah, but unfortunately, some organizations abuse people's privacy. Yeah, for example, we've seen people collect too much information from applicants. But because these applicants need these jobs, they will give as much information as possible for them to go through the interviews. But at the end of the day, I feel like it becomes too private. And secondly, there are some organizations which go beyond getting information direct from these people, and they dig into other sources. Like I had earlier talked about organizations that go to social media. Yeah, I feel like how someone expresses themselves on social media doesn't define how they will be, how they will deliver their roles at work. These are two different things. Then, secondly, there's also electronic monitoring in some workspaces, especially after COVID, where things became online. Some managers go beyond look finding out if people are working, but then if someone can remotely check your email, if someone can remotely access your computer, they can go as far as checking things they're not supposed to be checking, which abuses people's privacy. And then also I will talk about the abuse of artificial intelligence and other systems that people are using to collect data about people. Yeah, people have failed to understand that artificial intelligence is prompted by an individual. So how you prompt it is how it will bring back data to you. But are you sure you're prompting it the right way? So at that point, I feel like we shouldn't entirely depend on what comes off social media, on what comes off from AI to get information about people. Yeah, and lastly, there is a problem of employees failing to be given an opportunity to have a say on their data. Yeah. For example, researchers access data in organizations. Yeah. As long as I get consent from the human resource department, I can access someone's information without this employee's consent, which is not right. And then also, there is transformation. Naturally, people transform. We've seen cases where people have worked for organizations like for 20 years, and someone did something like in their second year of employment, and then this case is in their file even after 20 years, even after management has actually realized that these people are transformed. Yeah. So I feel like employees need to be given a chance to update their information in the human resource systems. What solutions do I suggest here? Yeah. First of all, I would suggest that people realize that AI is actually prompted by us humans. So we should not entirely depend on AI. Yeah. And secondly, we need to embed privacy in our human resource systems. Yeah. For example, you can set policies of we are only picking information about these people from their CVs and maybe former employers. Yeah, that is good enough instead of digging from other private sources. Then second, another solution would be having working with experts in privacy. For example, IT experts, yeah, and other legal people who can guide you properly on how to handle your employees' information to avoid legal repercussions. We can have transparent employee data charters with plain language, plain English that people understand. Yeah, that the information they are giving out is open, and then people need to be explained to why this information is being picked, for how long is this information going to be used, and by which people, and for what purpose. Yeah, this way we give our employees confidence that the information is actually going to be used only for the right purpose. And from this discussion, I hope we become better human resource managers, giving confidence to the employees of these organizations, but then also protecting our employers from repercussions that come off from being unethical and also depriving people of their privacy in regard to accessing and using their information. Thank you so much for listening.